Welcome to the Nephology podcast. I'm your host, Joe David, and I'm the founder and CEO of Nephos Group. On this podcast, we talk to founders, innovators, disruptors, and entrepreneurs from all across the globe who are building in Web3, technology, and finance. And if that's something that you're interested in, please hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any of the latest episodes. Now on to the next episode. Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Nephology podcast. I'm delighted to welcome Niki to the podcast today from TheBlock. Niki, how are you?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. You said before we started recording, this was the first time you being in the interviewee seat rather than the interviewer seat. So
it's my first time in the hot seat.
First time, yeah. So no pressure. But obviously we've known each other for quite a long time, but also we've done a lot of content together in different circumstances, and I've been on your podcast, and we've done stuff with Web3 TV, and so we're very used to talking to each other. But let's see if I can grill you today on your side of things. So why don't we start, for those that don't know who you are and your background, a bit about you and what brings you here.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Dubai and I studied here, so my school and university. My background's in finance, and I used to work in oil and gas, very traditional industry.
Yeah.
And last year around this time, actually, I attended Abu Dhabi Finance Week with the founder of TheBlock, so my current boss. And I noticed that all the money is moving into this space. So crypto, blockchain, AI. And so I decided, maybe it's time to make a move. And that's when I started working for TheBlock. Yeah. Amazing.
So what was it, I guess, that was, we'll come on to what TheBlock is in a sec, but I just want to touch on that piece around, going to Abu Dhabi Finance Week, and obviously that, as we're recording, that's next week. So it's a year literally from then. So what was it that triggered that in your mind, do you think, that was like, this is the future?
So we were having lunch every day in the same restaurant. And every table that we would sit at, there was some fund manager discussing how they're planning on moving tens of millions of dollars, and they're looking to invest it in a crypto project, or they're looking to set up a fund with it, and it was all related to this space. Right. So I basically, they say follow the money. Yeah. And that's what I did.
Okay, nice. And so maybe then, before we dive into a little bit more around that, why don't we maybe just tell the viewers like who TheBlock are and I guess what your goals are as a business?
Absolutely. So we're a Web3 ecosystem based in Dubai. And initially when our founder came here, he was just setting up a VARA license. He was trying to get his own VARA license. And he realized that the space is quite fragmented. So we have all these amazing ecosystems, but they're a little bit separate and they're not very agnostic. So most of them are licensing jurisdictions. And if you're not licensed there, you're not really part of that ecosystem. And so the idea was to create a one-stop shop, one place that accepts everyone, and create a safe space for adoption to happen. So everyone that comes into the ecosystem, obviously, we do a due diligence on them. And the goal is to just create a space where people can build safely and investors can feel comfortable and the builders can feel comfortable, and we can somehow also bring in the regulators and have everyone have open conversation so that we can increase adoption.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing you've definitely, I've personally firsthand been a part of as well. I remember that breakfast that was during Token. And it was around legal and compliance and regulation, and really getting, like, it's not, it's very easy for these Web3 ecosystems to go, let's have a party on the beach, in somewhere like Dubai, like, let's have a party on a boat every other day, there's a party on a boat. So to bring lawyers and accountants and, those sorts of people in a room for a breakfast and say, no, we really want to talk about this subject that a lot of people would think is not as interesting. Yeah. You guys can see how important it is as part of that wider ecosystem, right?
Yeah, because we noticed that, regulation, I don't want to say it's becoming a bottleneck, but it is, it's slowing down that kind of, whereas in like 2016, 2017, obviously I wasn't in the space, but from what I saw as an outsider even, everyone was running. And then the regulators came in and governments were like, okay, this space now needs to be regulated, and it kind of slowed everyone down. So the goal is to, obviously everyone needs to slow down, but also create a space where the runners can keep on going. Yeah.
I think that's always been my phrase, is like, we don't want regulation shouldn't stifle innovation.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is especially somewhere like this, because I think bottleneck is probably the right word, and it's not necessarily for the wrong reasons though. It's a bottleneck for some people because for the right reasons, as in because they should be blocked at some point because they haven't got the right kind of infrastructure or whatever. So I think when it is a bottleneck for people, it's normally for a reason.
Yeah. And
it doesn't mean they can't overcome it. For some it does. Some aren't very good at overcoming it, or they don't have the resource to overcome it. But for others, they can go, okay, there's the I guess black hole or whatever that we don't have.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess you guys can help. We talked before about the ecosystem piece, but that's where you guys can then help identify, I guess, some of those holes or areas that they're missing, right?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of simple things that kind of block people from getting regulated. We get a lot of cases of companies that have already applied for their VAR and it's kind of stuck. And our team takes one look at the business plan and it's like this very small detail that you just switch around and now it's in line with regulation. So like it's very important to understand the rule books of whatever jurisdiction you're in, because there are these very small details that make a big difference in the entire journey of becoming regulated.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you guys now have quite a lot of experience in reviewing business plans and white papers and all those things, I assume.
Yeah, when I joined, I had no crypto background. Okay. And the first task I was given was to go through all the VARA rule books. So I spent my first 3 or 4 weeks just reading VARA rule books.
Yeah, nice.
It was a very nice experience.
So you're now the expert?
Not really. I barely remember anything, but everyone that joins, their first task is to read the VARA rule books.
Right, okay. So that's like your onboarding.
Yeah.
What a joyous onboarding process,
Yep.
And I guess then if we kind of maybe like wind it back a little bit. So you mentioned Farbod, the founder. How did you guys meet? What was your, you obviously went to Abu Dhabi Finance Week with him. Like, was there always this, I say always, but was there kind of this plan that you would do something, or what was the?
No, actually, so Farbod is a great friend of my father's, and he's kind of like a second father to me.
Okay.
When I was about 9, I spent 6 months with him in Malaysia. I just lived with him. And so we always had a very close relationship. So Farbod was based in Austria, and he started in software in like 99. And over time, his clients were obviously asking to integrate blockchain, launch tokens. And so he kind of moved into the space quite early. And then when he moved to Dubai, he was like asking my father what to do. And that's how I ended up connecting with him and then ended up at TheBlock.
So it's kind of a reconnection from previous, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And when you got you're in Abu Dhabi, you're in these restaurants having lunch and you're hearing all of this, was TheBlock, from Farbod's perspective, was it a thing? Was it going to happen at this time last year? Or
I mean, I think we had the name, but I think that's all we had at the time.
Okay.
We knew that we wanted to create an ecosystem, but we were still very much studying the market, trying to understand what the issues are, what the gaps are, and how we can resolve them. And I was just telling you earlier, I found the notebook that we were like actually planning on, and Farbod drew a map, and he was like, okay, this is the block, and these are the investors and the institutions, and then we have the regulators, and we have the builders, and we're gonna have to find a way to connect everyone. And I have that written on paper. I'm gonna sell it one day.
I was gonna say one day that's going to be worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, the idea comes to life a little bit more in this restaurant in Abu Dhabi. And then I can't remember exactly when we spoke, but I feel like it was maybe June.
Yeah, I think it was
something
summertime.
Like that. And at that point, you still had a lot of ideas and plans, but no, it must have been before June, because Token was April.
Token was May.
So it must have been before June. But anyway, so like by that point, you still were feeling out the market, I feel, still understanding what people needed. And
yeah, so when we started off, we planned a structure. And then once we started actually implementing that, we realized, like with any startup, because sometimes people forget like we're a startup too. You have to, adjust according to the feedback that you're getting. And so once we started, we realized what works and what doesn't work and what we're really good at. And we're still adjusting, to this day. So we kind of started adjusting our services and adjusting how we utilize our resources based on what gave back the best impact for the ecosystem.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And The infamous space in One Central.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
We're almost there.
The vision for that.
So the vision for that is for it to be a permanent Web3 exhibition space. So the idea is we always have, like, we have the Future Blockchain Summit, we have Token 2049, it comes and it goes. So the idea was to have a space that's there all year round, and we've built it for these activations. So there's like a trading deck, there's a buzzer for token launches, like an ICO buzzer.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, and then we also have like a podium with a little stage for demos and pitch days for startups. There's a cafe with some space for co-working. So we've really taken bits and pieces of, ideas that we liked from different locations and different events and just put it all into one space.
Yeah, nice.
So very excited for that to open up.
And we probably shouldn't say it in a podcast studio, but you've also got a podcast studio.
We do have a podcast studio, yes. And it's it's in the middle of the event space. And the cool thing is we can have live podcasting during events.
Oh,
so the idea is to have like an interviewer in the room and then people just going in and out.
Going in and out. Yeah, nice. And I always remember, I actually always tell people the kind of ICO buzzer, let's call it. It's not, I mean, ICOs is the wrong word these days, but that new token launch, because they do that in the stock market, right? A company IPOs and they launch on the stock market and there's this big fanfare about it. Yeah. So why not do something cool like that in Web3 and make a bit of a kind of a deal about it, if you know what I mean? So I always talk to people about that because I think that's a really cool idea.
I'm really excited to see it happen for the first time. Because none of us really know what's going to happen. Like, we know there's a buzzer and we know something is going to happen, but we're all waiting to find out.
You don't know what happens when you press that big red button.
That buzzer,
Hopefully the token price goes up.
That's the goal, and stays up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have you got anyone in mind who you'd like to bring in for that first buzzer?
I'm not sure. Hopefully, I think we're going to have to definitely be careful, obviously, about who we bring to do the buzzer. But I'm hoping that it would be a proper RWA launch.
Yeah, okay, nice. Like
something really put together, properly regulated, properly in compliance. Because I think we're yet to see, I mean, obviously, there are companies doing it here in the UAE, tokenizing property and everything. But I really want to see like a really unique RWA idea come to life there. Yeah,
nice. Well, that kind of, I guess, segues us quite nicely into tokenization and part of the conversation I wanted to have today, because it does seem a lot of the kind of companies or individuals that I've spoken to that you've put our way have definitely been on that tokenization side of things. And there was gold. There was a couple of others off the top of my head, I can't remember. But, is that, I don't want to call it a specialism, but is that an area that you guys at TheBlock see as a key area of opportunity?
So I think we are very bullish on tokenization at the moment, because so whenever I talk to people about tokenization, and I always get these questions, and my answer is always like, the underlying asset is still the same. Nothing's changing about that. The only difference is we're making it more efficient to purchase, and then hopefully one day more efficient to sell once we have liquidity in this market. So we're basically, I think, when the internet started off and people were like, oh, you can order things online. It's that easy. Like, I don't need to get in my car, drive to the grocery store. I can just order it and get it delivered to my house. Amazon, like, you could order books online. That was a revolution. So I think this is another revolution. Like, you're telling me I no longer need to go to the land department physically, sign papers, get a lawyer to make sure everything is right so I can purchase a property. I can just do it from behind my computer any time of the day, anywhere in the world. So why wouldn't the world adopt that? I think it's an experiment right now. I think it's very new. It's in the pilot phase, both from the regulatory standpoint. There's lack of liquidity, obviously. Secondary market is still like iffy. How are we going to trade this? How's it going to be controlled? Because they are like real assets that need to be, the government needs to know who the owner is.
I was just going to say that there's a government element as well,
involved,
right? That's,
exactly.
That's the issue.
Yeah, but I think all new technology has these issues, and when we overcome that, I think it's gonna be a really massive shift.
Yeah, and we're, thankfully for us, we're in a place where the government are on board to help make these things happen and to give feedback towards how they need to see stuff so that they can approve these things. So, we're in a place where innovation is encouraged and celebrated. So it won't. I mean, I know there already has been some transactions, but I don't think it will be long before it's a much more, kind of streamlined process. I've always said, in the UK, the house buying process, let's call it, or selling process is very long-winded. It can take months to buy a property. And part of that is the lawyers need to do things like searches. So we have the land registry in the UK, and they have to do search on that land registry to make sure that there's nothing, no title deed issues or no issues around things like flooding and all these like kind of risks. And these searches, they're like physical documents. I mean, obviously they come online these days, but they're physical documents. They take weeks to come. Yeah. They should just be on the blockchain that somebody presses a button and they pop up and they're there. Like they're static documents. They don't change. You know what I mean? Some of them might update depending on things, but the point I'm trying to make is like there's no reason that couldn't be, and that would save 6, potentially 8 weeks on a property purchase. So I think there's huge benefit, if you like, to the tokenization piece. I think, but also like a lot of people focus on property, but tokenization is unlocking everything. So if we think about commodities, if I have enough money to buy a bar of gold, we live in Dubai, we don't have this problem, but anywhere else in the world, I wouldn't want that bar of gold in my house because there's a risk of robbery. So if I'm able to buy that through tokens, it's safe and secure in my wallet. Yeah. That's one thing. And then there's also, we were speaking to a company that's tokenizing loans to publicly listed companies, which is a very lucrative market that only like very top institutions can get into. But if they tokenize and fractionalize that, the regular person with $20,000 is going to be able to get in on that very high return asset. Right? Yeah. They're tokenizing loans to SMEs. Right. So there's a lot that can be done through tokenization. And what you said about Dubai, I completely agree. I think one massive benefit that a lot of people don't realize about the UAE is that the government doesn't change. Yeah. They can plan. So we have the 2033 vision. Yes. We have the 2050 vision. Yeah. I don't think there's any other country in the world where you can say, okay, I know where it's headed and I know it's not going to change for the next 30 years. And you can plan for yourself and for your business and for your investment. I think that's one of the biggest advantages. Coming from the UK, you couldn't speak more of the truth there because, even right now we're in a very, the current government have only been in a year, 18 months, and there's already this huge political kind of turmoil. Yeah. And like you say, you've got one government in the UK that is very pro-business, low tax, and then you've got another government comes in that's a little bit less pro-business and a bit more of a higher tax, higher welfare kind of state. And like you say, how as a business owner can you possibly plan for that? And what I also said before about things like the way that the government, if you like, works in somewhere like this is that they're also creating a future for their children. Yep. So their children, it's a bit like me, my business, right? I don't want to hand my business down to my children. If I did, huge debt, no prospects, everyone hates it and wants to leave, all these sorts of things, right? I would want to hand it down with, cash in the bank and everyone loves it and all those sorts of things. In the UK, we don't have that because you're not handing it down. It's you do a job and all you're really focused on is what's your next job. Yeah. Is it a different government job? Is it a private sector job or whatever. So you've got to make sure that you look in the best possible way you can, rather than thinking about what's the best thing for the country. Yeah. Whereas for here, because they're passing it down effectively, it means that they're all they care about, not all they care about, but you know what I mean? Is like, how do they make it as better place as possible for when they hand that down? Yeah. And I think that's just a fascinating thing that, like you say, most countries don't have. Yeah, they are able to plan far, far ahead. And we can see how that helps. Like 54 years ago, it was a very different place. It was a desert. And because of that long-term planning, they're able to execute this quickly. Whereas in other countries, it's like for 4 years, they're pro-crypto. You can get your license, you can do this. And then the government changes and it's like suddenly you have to stop all your operations. So I think that's one of the massive benefits that we have here in the UAE that not a lot of people focus on, but it's very important. No, it's really interesting. And like you say, even sometimes the opposite, take the US, Biden administration, very anti-crypto. They're very aggressive in their approach. Trump administration, very pro-crypto. So again, a lot of American companies we spoke to in the last 4 years were wanting to exit the US because it wasn't a very friendly place.
Yeah.
Now a lot of those are going, oh, maybe I could go back.
Let's
or,
go back.
you know, yeah. So it's a very, very different. But having said that, they now go, oh, do we go back? And then they go, what if Trump leaves in 3 years or whatever,
What
4 years,
happens
whatever
next?
it is now?
Yeah.
Who comes in, you know? So, yeah, I think that is a huge point, like you say, that people don't focus on. So I guess, you know, on that piece around tokenization and, you know, then also what you guys do as an ecosystem, how do you help a business? So I'm a business looking at tokenization or whatever, and I come to TheBlock. Like, what is the journey that we would go on together?
So the first step, and we have an advisor, David Lukács, and he kind of created these 5 buckets for tokenization that I'm going to go by. So the first step is structure.
Yeah.
So we help figure out, okay, how are you going to structure the whole project? Because there's a lot of different ways to do it nowadays. So is the asset going to be tokenized itself, or is it going to be held by an SPV that's going to be tokenized? So we figure out the structure. Based on that, we can then think about the regulation and how we're going to make sure that it's within within compliance in the jurisdiction that it's coming out of. And so with that, obviously there's VARA in Dubai, and then there's also other jurisdictions you can tokenize in, like Luxembourg and Liechtenstein. And so we have partners, legal partners in all these jurisdictions that we've seen, they've done it before. We know that they can do it. And so we're able to then bring them onto the project to help with the licensing. Once that's done, it's the primary offering. So where are you going to list it for the first time? Normally they do a private round first. How are the investors going to be KYC'd? How are they going to pay, etc. And then after that, we start thinking about the secondary listing and the secondary market, which right now, I don't want to say it's non-existent, but it's very new. There's a big lack of liquidity, and most of the biggest exchanges are not touching securities at the moment, RWAs. But it will come eventually, so think about that. And then after that, obviously, it's the marketing, because most of these tokens will be considered securities. You have to be very careful when you're marketing them in different jurisdictions.
Yeah.
And so we're able to act as like an execution partner throughout the project. We don't necessarily provide any of the tech or anything like that, but we just know who can do it and who can do it well. And so we're able to just bring them on and make sure everything is done in the correct steps by the correct people until the project is done.
Yeah, nice. So it's kind of mapping the journey.
Yeah.
But then at each part of the journey, bringing in a specialist, if needed, in that part to help deliver on that, you know, particular piece or execute on something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what, like, if these businesses are coming to you, or these individuals coming to you, and let's say they've already got an existing business, or they've got, excuse me, maybe not an existing business, but an idea, or like, what's the biggest challenge they're facing when they come to someone like you guys?
So I wouldn't say it's the biggest challenge when they come to us, but I would say it's the biggest challenge of the market right now is everybody thinks it's so easy. Like, yeah, we're just going to mint a token. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But really, especially when it comes to tokenization of a real asset, like, it's a security. You're doing a public offering. So they underestimate how much it's going to cost them. They underestimate how long it's going to take. They underestimate the time and effort that it really takes to get it to a place where you can offer to investors. They underestimate the difficulty of addressing the retail market, like retail investors. And so usually our initial meetings are always like 90% of the time, by the end of the second meeting, they realize they don't want to do it right now.
Oh, right, okay.
Because it costs too much, or it takes too much time, and they would rather just, like, especially, let's say, a property. So they have one apartment.
Okay.
You know, if you have a building or one apartment, the process is going to be the same.
Yeah.
So for one unit, it's not really worth it cost-wise to tokenize one unit, unless you have like a roadmap of doing unit after unit, kind of like what Pripco is doing.
Yeah.
And so by the end of like the second meeting, they realize it's not the right pathway.
Yeah, okay.
Because right now it's a buzzword. Everyone thinks it's an easy way to raise funds, which it is, but it's not as easy as people think it is.
Yeah, no, and that probably, my next question is going to be around misconception, and that's probably the same thing, right? The misconception. And I think there's still, I don't know if you find it, there's still a misconception that Dubai is a regulatory free do what you want.
It's not.
You know, it's definitely not.
No.
I always say to people, for me, it's one of the most robust regulatory frameworks. That the nice thing about it is it's very clear what you can and can't do.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's easy to be regulated or whatever, but it's very clear. So a lot of people say to me, is it easy? And I'm like, well, no, it's not easy. It's a very long process, and it's, you know, there's lots of things you've got to do, but it's very clear what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
There's no ambiguity in the main about what you can do here.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is because they set up a whole new regulator for virtual assets. Because I see a lot of different jurisdictions, they just take the regulator that's regulating securities and they say, okay, now you're also going to regulate this. But that kind of creates like, so if I could do this previously, can I do this now just with this technology? And that's what creates kind of a lot of confusion. But what they've done here is they've put a whole new regulator with a whole new rule book, not connected to any of the, you know, traditional regulators. And I think that's created a very clear pathway for everyone that's trying to build.
Yeah, agreed. And they're also very vocal.
They are.
We were at Future Blockchain Summit and they were speaking. There was a few different sessions where Vara were there and they held a round table that I kind of sat in and listened in on. And, you know, they're very, very industry friendly, if you want to call it that. So, you know, that's the other thing. You know, many jurisdictions, UK is an easy one for me because it's one I know well. But, you know, they introduce something. They do have a consultation, but consultation goes to the big people. It doesn't go to the people on the ground that are actually genuinely doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas here, they seem to have the opposite view. They seem to very much value being part of the ecosystem and being able to really understand what people are thinking on the ground.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're a few floors up from them you were. You're moving, I know. But so you must get that vibe as well, right?
Yeah.
They're very much... they're not hidden away like some jurisdictions.
No, they're not hidden away, and they're very collaborative with builders. I mean, a lot of people give the feedback that maybe they take some time to respond. But you have to think about the fact that they have like 7,000 applications. Or something.
And a lot of rubbish.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. And so obviously they get a lot of noise coming in, but just the fact that they're able to even, you know, get through that and still get back to people and come to events, it's great.
Yeah,
and they're listening, they're watching. I mean, they came out with the issuance license.
Yes.
It was brilliant. It was like right on time.
Yeah, and it, you know, again, it kind of sums up, like you say, the attitude of this part of the world that, you know, if they say they're going to deliver it, they'll deliver it.
Yeah.
It's not about ifs and buts, and it's we say we'll deliver it, we'll deliver it. And, you know, with all these things, there's never... I actually put a video on my Instagram the other day where I was chatting on another episode, I was chatting to someone, they do a lot in VC and whatnot. And I said, I used to really hate the idea of an MVP, right? I used to hate the idea of putting something out there that I kind of knew wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But then as I started to realize what that meant was that actually I was able to validate it. I was able to, or not me, but like the person was able to see, is that what people want? And it's a little bit like that with a regulator. I'm not saying you want to, you know, put something out that's completely loose and incorrect, but you also kind of want to get something out there and see what happens and see what the reaction is. And, you know, then maybe look at it and go, okay, you know, if that's what the reaction is, then maybe that's not the right solution, or maybe we need to think about this, or, you know, and I don't know if it's a Western thing, but like a lot of people in the UK, especially, they're very much, if somebody goes back on something, they take it as a negative. Yeah. Whereas I'm like, well, they're allowed to make a mistake and learn from it, or not even a mistake. They're allowed to, do you know what I mean? Like kind of learn. And in fact, if anything, I think going back on something shows that you've got an element of self-awareness. Do you know what I mean? And I feel there's a lot of that here, that they'll put stuff out there, they'll let people use it, play with it, and then come back to them with
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same with the real estate industry. And when obviously the whole world was hit in 2008, 2009 at the crisis. But if you look at the steps that the UAE has taken after that to make sure that it never happens again, it's insane. The escrow accounts, the DLD regulations, like they really went all in on, they looked at every single mistake that was made and every single loophole that existed, and they fixed it all. So the same thing's going to happen with this space, because it's such a evolving industry, so they can never come out and say this is a definitive, final, perfect rule book. People are always going to find ways around it. Every time someone does, that's an opportunity to make it even better. And they do that, which is great.
I love that. So Have you done like much as TheBlock in like the wider GCC? Have you seen, because we talked about the kind of governmental element, but there's a lot of that kind of government side is similar in other GCC countries. Not exactly the same, but it's similar, right? Places like Saudi, Qatar, etc. Have you seen much as TheBlock? Have you expanded outside the UAE, or is it mainly UAE?
Yeah, it is mainly UAE, but we're looking at different countries. Obviously, in the GCC, I think UAE is probably the most forward-looking. The others are still, it's illegal in a lot of the GCC countries still. Crypto is completely illegal. But they are looking at it. There are a lot of really awesome associations. We've spoken with one in Saudi Arabia that are really advocating for regulation so that it could be legal but regulated. And so we are looking at different countries. Right now, the focus is Dubai, and next up is Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
So we're looking to also expand into Abu Dhabi, maybe have another location. And then we'll probably be looking at Oman, Riyadh, to see what we can do there,
Yeah, I was in Oman and Riyadh recently, and
how was it, by the way?
Yeah, it was really interesting, actually. Oman was really interesting, like how some of the quality of the startups I spoke to were, like I say, I was surprised, and I don't mean that like derogatory towards Oman. I didn't know what to expect, and it was like some super like innovative, forward-thinking stuff that was going on there. So that's why I'm kind of also asking for myself, because we're very interested in the wider kind of market here, and it makes a lot of sense as well when you're, I was talking to someone earlier today on a call, when you're a new start, right, you've got to do something different. You've got to break the mold. You got to say why you should come to me versus somebody else in business. But that's the same for this part of the world. There, like you said, 54 years ago, we just celebrated 54 years, National Day here. 54 years ago, this place didn't exist as in the context of what it does today. So they had to do something that was going to say to the world, come here and be here. And I think that's what's exciting for me about this part of the world, is that they kind of still have to break the mold a little bit and break that innovation curve, so that a lot of people in the Western world go, do you know what, I might head over there actually and see what they're doing, because they're doing something different. Whereas if they just did the same as everywhere else, nobody would be here, right? Because they could just be where they already were. So I find that fascinating about this part of the world, and one of the most exciting, for me, it's the most exciting place in the world to be, is this part of the world. Yeah, it really is. And they really do treat the country like it's a business, and all the expats are the customers. And that's why it's so nice. Like, you go to get your Emirates ID done, you go to get your trade license done, and they treat you really nice. Customer service is great. Whereas everywhere else that I've experienced, like, transactions within these sectors, it's kind of like you're bothering them being there, and they're doing you a favor. But here it's like you're an actual client. They treat you like a customer, and I think that's why they're so successful. 100%. I remember like coming through immigration when I first came here. I used to be like a bit scared and a bit like, oh, what's going to happen? Like now, my 7-year-old, when we go to immigration, they like take him around the back and he stamps his own passport, and like, it's just a very welcoming, friendly place to be. And a lot of the narrative that's said about this part of the world, just when you're here, you just realize just completely isn't true. So it's an amazing place, and that's why we're getting some of the biggest innovators. The guy founder of Revolut moved here. You got people like the Telegram founder lives here. And some of the biggest Web3, I think Polygon's founders live here.
They're all moving.
So it's just some of these biggest founders in the world, are choosing this part of the world as their base, aren't they? So that says a lot.
It does. And I think it's because not only do you get business benefits, but it's so safe.
Yeah. You
so
talked about gold.
Friendly,
You could probably leave it outside your front door and it would still be there.
No one would touch it. So that's why I think a lot of high net worth people are realizing that, because there's no amount of money that can replace just feeling safe and secure where you are. So I think that's why also a lot of people are moving here, especially if they have families.
Agreed. I was actually chatting to a friend, side note here, but I was chatting to a friend earlier, and we talked about talking to the police about something in the UK, and they told him that it would take them 48 hours to respond.
Wow.
And I said to him, if it took 48 minutes for them to respond here, that would be slow.
That would be
Do you know what I mean? You know, it's just a different, and then it makes you understand why people don't bother going to the police in somewhere like the UK or whatever. So like, what's the point? In 2 days' time, it's
It's
too
over.
late. Yeah. There's no help there. Whereas someone like this, like we just said, within 48 minutes they'll be there. And part of that's because they don't have the strain on resource because they are so strict on how things, how people should be and things. So therefore the resource isn't strained and they can be reactive.
Yeah.
Whereas in places like the UK, they can't be because they're so strained in resource
So
because no
many
one
things
respects
happening.
the law.
Yeah.
So it's anyway, it's a fascinating place, and you've obviously seen a huge change in how this place looks.
Yeah. And it used to, I don't want to say it used to be safer, but it used
Too many
to
Brits
be,
came.
No, but it used to be, it was very small and there were very few people. And so it was like scarier to break the law. I can just tell from the driving. Like,
Okay.
As an example.
I think you said this to me before, actually.
Like back in the day, people not using indicators, you got fined immediately because there was police officers everywhere. There were so many few cars on the street, and now people cut you off. I'm like, excuse me, do you forget where you live? Like, hello, did anyone see that?
Yeah, driving here is insane.
Yeah, it's insane now. I swear to God, it used to be like the safest, most structured place in the world to drive.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
And now it's just potentially.
but it's good. It's a good sign. People coming.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
the
what
busier the
happens.
roads, the more people that are here. But as I'm sure you do, when you live here and you spend time on the roads here, you also love it when the holiday time comes around, in whether that's summer, whether that's now, and actually it gets quieter. And even at the moment, I think, because of National Day, I think a lot of people have left already. You can tell the roads are quieter, which is always. But again, it's so hard. People talk about the infrastructure, but it's so hard in somewhere like, I mean, we're going very much off topic from the usual crypto here, but you're building a city from nothing, from a desert. You've got to, and things change. More people come, more people live in certain areas. You've got to, and you can't just lift a road up and change it. It's a very.
Well, you say that, but they do. Like they build bridges. I go on a vacation for 2 weeks. I come back. I'm like, what happened? Why is there a bridge here?
Why is there a bridge here? Yeah.
So
sometimes, what I find funny, sometimes you're driving and then all of a sudden you realize you're on a bridge that wasn't there. But like, you don't have to go on the bridge, if you know what I mean. You're just driving down the road and all of a sudden you're on it and you're like, hang on a second, I wasn't on this bridge 2 weeks ago when I drove down this road. And someone else said to me that a lot of places they build bridges and roads and stuff like off-site, if you like, and they bring it in and they drop it. Whereas here they build it on the road. Like they literally build it. But they, even then, the road traffic seems to be, don't get me wrong, the traffic is crazy in Dubai, but like it doesn't seem to be hugely affected by things like roadworks. They seem to try and make these things.
They do it in the night when no one's around.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, sorry, I've taken us completely off topic from the conversation. So I guess like just to kind of take us towards the close, like where do you see, we've talked about the vision of Dubai and the fact they can think ahead, but where do you see in the position you find yourself in, talking to regulators, talking to businesses, talking to founders, all these different things, where do you see the future, if you like, of the industry in Dubai?
I think Dubai is going to be probably the first mover when it comes to tokenization. I think we're going to see a lot of projects come up. Not all of them are going to be successful, but that's fine. That's what happens. But I think we're going to see a lot of projects come and go. And off the back of those projects, the regulators are going to catch up. The banks are hopefully going to catch up. The institutions are going to catch up. And I think it's going to become the place to be as investors. And I'm very excited for that. Yeah.
And for you, sorry, again, I'm going back off topic here, but for someone that's been here for a long time, do you see, like, you're still excited by what's happening here, right? You're not looking at it and going, oh, I wish it was still very quiet.
No. It's very exciting. And I talked to my parents about this because they always wanted me to go to the UK to study, go to university. They want me to live abroad. I don't know why. Middle Eastern parents always have this idea.
Yeah.
So I was telling them, I'm like, guys, you don't understand. Like, Dubai is becoming New York.
Yeah.
Dubai is becoming London. Like, why would I leave?
Yeah. We're talking about that with our kids. My eldest is 10, and don't get me wrong. There's every chance that he'll go to the UK or whatever. But I'm like, don't rule out here for university and
Yeah.
for like, don't rule it out because just because you think it's the Middle East and therefore it's not as prestigious or whatever, you know, a lot of these hugely prestigious universities are now here.
My university was Australian, actually.
Oh, there you go.
University of Wollongong.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, the education's great, but really I think it's going to be the place to be very soon. I mean, it already is, but I think it's really, really becoming a business hub, especially in the field of tokenization and crypto. I see a lot of really big institutions locally that are looking at setting up, you know, funds in this space. So I think it's going to grow rapidly, faster than we imagine right now.
Yeah. Well, Niki, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously, our conversations are I always love having the conversations because they always develop into lots of different things. But for people that kind of want to find out a bit more about the block and what you guys are doing, where's best we'll link everything obviously in show notes, but like where's best for people to find you?
Our socials are TheBlock Global everywhere, and our website, the-block.com.
Yeah, nice.
And that's it. You can find us in One Central.
Yeah, very soon. Very, very soon. And I'll be there too because I've been waiting for this space too. So, Niki, thank you so much. Lovely to see you. And thank you everyone for listening and see you on the next one.